Welcome to CJ's Chat Box. We're doing another episode of Cocktails and Conversation. So I've invited a few friends, guests, people that we will get to know a little bit better today. So as we go around, would you please say your name?
Joe Cameron.
Dorothy Pacella.
Ray Boggio.
Joey Simmons.
Steve Meislon.
And CJ. All right, Dorothy.
Right. If you could talk to anyone, dead or alive, who would you talk to? Anyone, dead or alive, who would you talk to? Wanna go?
You go. Dorothy.
No.
Want to think about it?
I have to think about this one.
I would talk to Robin Williams.
Oh,
Really?
bless your heart.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, he was an interesting man. I've watched that. It was late, a special on him on HBO recently. And he led an interesting life.
yeah,
And I love comedy.
Right.
And he was a funny, funny man.
he couldn't stop.
It'd be interesting just to spend some time with him.
Ron Williams?
Robin.
Robin Williams?
Robin Williams, oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, he went too young.
Yeah.
I think they said he took his own life.
Yeah.
He did.
He did. Hung himself.
Lot of-
amazing.
A lot of comedians do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Huh. How about you, Ray?
You know, there's several, but be interesting to talk to one of my great-grandfathers that came from northern Italy to France to Canada, then to the United States, and then went back. It'd be interesting to see what his journeys were.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mine would be Martin Luther. He's my homeboy.
Huh?
I
Yeah.
absolutely.
Martin Luther from Germany, huh?
The reformer. Yeah.
Religious reformer.
Yep.
Lutheran Church.
We went on a tour of Germany, and we went to the room where he rewrote the Bible, that little castle,
Yep.
in that tiny room.
Before Kirk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was interesting.
Yeah. I got my degree in that, my master's, and it wasn't until then, even though I'd been a Lutheran all my life, I didn't know Luther. And so studying Luther was just like eye-opening. But what killed me was like, where the hell are the bold Lutherans? He was so bold, and we don't have that kind of strength anymore because he just stood for what he believed in and he fought and he pointed to scripture and said, it says it right there, it says it right there. So he was just phenomenal to study. I really, and the fact that he lived to be in his 60s was amazing. And the fact that he lived at the same time as Michelangelo. And Michelangelo lived to be in his 80s, which again was rare in those days. So I would have loved to talk to Michelangelo too, believe you me, but
Yeah, the
Luther-
Renaissance was to really challenge the status quo and bring about the level of change that he did. It's
yeah, amazing.
pretty amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably want to talk to Tesla, Nikola Tesla. That was kind of the thinker of seeing the world different than.
Yeah.
I would like to talk to Walt Disney. I worked for Disney for 12 years. And so when you understand the culture and the different components of the company, you can't help but be in awe of what he actually built in terms of all facets of the company. And every time I would do anything, I would marvel, and no pun intended, because Marvel's part of them now, but just for him to build a company like that across all components of first animation, and then consumer products, and then the parks, and then the movie studios. I mean, he did all of that. And to think of everything down to the most finite detail of the guest experience. I would love to talk to him. I had a chance to meet Roy Disney, but I would love to have met Walt. And one of my very favorite stories that I learned, management employees at Disney get to go through the Disney University. And I'll never forget this one class that we had. And the presenter was the vice president of character voices. character voices, okay? And I'm sitting there going, what is this going to be about? And it turns out, no matter what the guest experiences globally, if there's a movie premiering in Tokyo and it's Mulan, it doesn't premiere in English, it premieres in Japanese. But this Department of Voices makes sure that the inflection in the voice that's coming and being shown to the guest in Tokyo is the same voice that they would hear in the United States. That is the finite detail that Walt took the company, and that's just one tiny little piece. Imagine everything else with the guest experience, whether it be parks, retail, and all of that. So having worked there as much as I did and got embedded in that culture, I missed him. And I wish I could have met him.
Had you heard, I just watched a thing on Griffith Park where they have the observatory, but they had a merry-go-round back there that they say Walt Disney sat there and is where he apparently came up with the theme park idea. So we should expand this and let families come and share this experience.
That's
and built off of that idea of the going on a merry-go-round and the animation and stuff and how you're using, you're having fun, you're moving, and you're using your imagination.
Yes,
and,
the imagination is so important.
and that's still up there at Griffith Park. We're going to try and go in October and see.
Okay. How about you, Joey?
Well, I don't feel as bright as you people because all I can think of is I never had much time to visit with my mom. She was like a sister to me. She worked all the time, and I'd like to see her, I'd like to talk to her.
Do you think you got your humor from your mom?
I didn't really think about it until after I did your show. And then I thought about things, you made me think about things I hadn't thought about.
Well, you said when you found that picture of her on
She
the porch
used to-
with a corn
Yeah, she was a real
corn cob
fashion
pipe.
plate, and she did something to look like grandma and a mule train or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe she had a sense of humor.
Yeah,
My Italian side did, my dad, and my mom was French.
yeah.
But when somebody dies young, and my whole family did, you miss them and you want to talk to them some more.
Yeah. Another reason to keep track of things, as we're talking about. Okay. Ray, are you ready to do the next question?
Sure.
All right.
Sorry.
I think I know who wrote this. Do you ever think about DNA and the... Actually, I do. That's a very interesting subject. I mean, the notion of biotechnology getting to such a state that we might be just maybe a couple of decades away from the next step of human evolution. And it would be a conscious evolution. It wouldn't be something that's brought about unconsciously. You know, and all of the, you know, and all of the moral considerations and ethical considerations that need to go into making some decisions as we move more and more down that path of that technology. I'm all for it, but you know, I can see where the politics, not just in this country but everywhere, would
Who gets to control it?
Yeah, would just go nuts over this.
And that's the key when you said about morals and ethics, is that who would be in charge of guiding this so that those are not totally thrown out, you know, because of the power that you'd be given, and to be using it for wrong. You know, to have that much knowledge scientifically to do the most wonderful things you can do, but then to put it in the wrong hands is what is so frightening always. And how do you keep it out of their hands, you know?
Yeah, around stuff like that, I tend to be very much of a libertarian. So, you know, it's up to people to figure stuff out. Ultimately, the natural selection around that figures it out.
Okay.
But that's just my thought.
Right, right. Any other thoughts on that, or?
Any thoughts on DNA and what it means that, just to add a little that like I said, that's 4 proteins that are sequenced. And what man's creating now, the whole internet and movies and everything, everything on a computer, when you look at your phone and you think you're watching a video, you're only watching zeros and ones. We've wrote the whole computer code is only a 0 or a 1. Everything behind that screen, the audio, the video, the data, the bank transfer, the billions of dollars bouncing off of satellites. In 20 years, we built this global infrastructure that totally runs on a 2-number code. Everything's decompiled to either a 0 or a 1. And we can make all these things happen, like Hollywood movies and stuff show up at your door. It's all zeros and ones, and the commerce going on. But man did that in all of our flaws and weaknesses in the last 30 years. Imagine if some intelligent center had the ability, had 10,000 years to work on this. That, to me, that makes it very, when somebody said we might be in a simulation, it didn't resonate with me. But now I think very much we could be, the creator could be, this could all be a simulation that basically that we're in a layered existence. But anyway, I think it's a fascinating frontier, but it is a wild frontier too. There's no bounds on anything. You know, the Chinese are doing what they're doing, and people over here think, well, if they're doing it, we better start doing it. As far as, you know, making humanoids and connecting into the cyberspace with, I think there's a whole lot of billions of dollars of investment going on that the public isn't aware of right now. But it's an exploding field of knowledge that's gone. Hopefully the net will be a positive, but there's a lot of danger too.
Yeah, that's again the negative for it. But anyway, Joey, you want to draw another one?
There's 14 more in here. There's 14 more in here.
Yeah.
If they named a cocktail after you, I like this one. What would you call it? I think it says. What would you call it?
Well, I'd call it a jelly, but what would be in it?
Oh yeah. Let me see. What would you call it?
What would you
Some
put
kind
in
of a fun drink.
What would you put in it? Maybe that'll help describe what you
Okay.
call it.
I would like something like a martini, similar to that. Maybe float a piece of fruit in it or something, you know, a little extra bounce. That's a funny question.
Cup of cheer though, or a cup of laughter.
Yeah.
Were you always in comedy, or what? Were you funny in school?
Yes.
You were like the class entertainer?
Yes. And I sang all the time too.
Yeah.
I was a singer.
Nice.
Is that what they were laughing at?
Huh?
Is that what they were laughing at?
No. That's funny.
Cool.
That's funny.
What would you name your
Well,
cocktail?
it's funny you should say that because I go fishing a lot, and we all got drunk one time fishing, and we invented a drink.
No.
And to this day, we call it the Drunken Whaler.
Oh, that's funny.
Everybody brought a different type of rum. I don't know if you're familiar with Whaler's rum. It's a spice rum.
Yeah.
Oh.
But we had Whaler's rum and Captain Morgan and Bacardi, and there was 3 other rums, and we just put it all in a glass with not a lot, you know.
Yeah.
But then
The 3 rums, you don't need a lot.
it was 6 rums.
Ooh.
Oh.
But it was tasty. And after 3, it was even tastier.
I bet.
Yeah.
Did you still fish?
This was at night when you're telling the stories about
Oh,
the one that got
you're
away.
telling
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So we
That's
did a little
great.
mixology.
Have you had any sense?
Oh, yeah. We had to write it down because it took us several nights to remember how we did
To
it.
get the right
Yeah, the right ingredients.
You're very sweet.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't care for sweet drinks.
I don't either.
So I don't know what I would call it, but I do kind of like my martinis. Just a slight dirty. Maybe that's what it would be.
Little dirty?
A little dirty. Just a naughty. How about a naughty
naughty,
martini?
yeah.
I'll be a naughty.
I don't want mine dirty.
Oh, I like it just a tad with mine. So I'll be a naughty martini.
I think I'd go with Mad Dog 2200. You guys know Mad Dog 2020? It was like the cheapest wine you could buy. I don't know what was even, it was really sweet. It tastes like cough syrup, but we used to drink it as a kid. It was called Mad Dog 2020, but we would get lit that I'd lose your vision. And I used to be a really heavy drinker since I was a kid. We did some hard drinking, but.
Do you ever crush the grapes?
To make wine? No, my grandfather
I remember my
did
grandpa
that.
putting me in that tub.
Yeah.
We danced around.
Yeah, my grandfather made wine and had bottle jugs all down the basement. And,
Jumping around.
I never helped him, but
I hope I had clean feet.
And we had the cheap Arriba wine. But I mean, when you're young, the dollar jug like this, I mean, everybody is, you know.
my dad still buys
teenagers,
the by the gallon gallo wine.
You know, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm used to good wine, but Gallo is not bad.
How about you, Dorothy? What would your drink be?
Well, you know, it's funny. I remember my 21st birthday, and my friends took me to this great restaurant in San Luis Obispo because I was at Cal Poly, and they ordered me an Adios Mother, and it was blue. I have no idea what was in it, but it was Adios, and so I would have to come up with some new version of that. But it was great, but it was blue.
We'll have to ask.
I know, I have to ask a
What is
bartender
blue?
somewhere, what do you put in the blue, in an Adios
Agave?
Mother?
Isn't there a blue agave or something?
Yeah, I
Blue
bet that's it.
curacao.
I bet
Yeah, it
that's
might have been that, but it was fun.
What would you drink, Pete, dear?
I don't know. When I was younger, I'd liked absinthe. So something with absinthe. Maybe the drink would be called. You got to find a shorter way to say this, but remember things you never did.
Right.
Because absinthe has a tendency of making you a little loopy.
Remember things you never did. That's a good one. All right, you're drawing
Me?
next. Yep, you get to draw
It goes
next.
around. What was my favorite place you visited outside the USA? And I would say Germany, because that's where my family's from. And my brother got into genealogy about 30 years ago, and he found the Maislans in Germany. And so he connected with our cousins, and they lived on the family farm that was established in 1600, and they're still there. So that the barn still says Maislan on it. It has the date carved in it. So we went back there and met our family. I was walking around the island, because they're on an island in the Baltic Sea, and I was walking around the island with my cousin, and I asked him, well, how did we end up in the United States? And he says, well, everybody was a farmer back then. So you had lots of kids. The first kid gets everything, and to this day in Germany it's the same way. The first kid gets everything, first boy. If there's girls, they don't get anything. And in fact, he says the second son usually works for the first son. The third son becomes a minister, and the rest you're on your own. So he says, your great-grandfather was on his own, so he says, well, I'm going to America. So if there's anybody with my last name, I'm related to him. There's very few of us.
What is the last name?
Maislan.
How do you spell it?
I-T. That's a funny thing.
Yeah.
M-E-I-S-L-A-H-N.
Oh, okay.
Iceland.
Maislan.
Yeah. What part of Germany? It's an island.
It's an island called Fehmarn Island. It's in the Baltic Sea, and it's where all the Danish people go to get their booze because they get taxed. And there's a ferry that goes over. My cousin says their car comes over to Germany like this and goes back like that because there's no tax on the booze in Germany. So they go across the border to buy it. We went to, when we were there, we went to Denmark. We just drove the car on the ferry and then drove into Copenhagen and drove back. Just a day trip. It was pretty cool.
Well, what was again the favorite place I've been?
Outside the U.S. of A.
Yeah. Well, I already told you about Florence, so I'll tell you about Israel. That was I was there with 30 people from my church. We were there 2 weeks. And it was way back in 92 or 3. It was the first, it snowed for the first time in 200 years there. And it shut down the city, the airports, the buses were stopped in the streets. And it was unique because in the patio, you know, those little white plastic chairs that you could see, first it would be this high and then this high and then this high. So you could see how high the snow would get, that's how much it snowed. And we made a snowman out in the, we were at the Hyatt Hotel, we made a snowman out there. But to be able to go to all the sites that we saw, that was just absolutely the most precious thing. And then we did drive to St. Catharines, which we had to cross the border and then get some Egyptians, because that's who, you know, has the Sinai. So we had to get Egyptians to drive the bus. And it took us 4 hours on a bus to go through that desert. And we were all just bitching because it was nothing but desert out there. And then we thought, oh my God, the Israelites were here for 40 years and we can't stand 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so, but it made us kind of put it into, you know, but then you'd see, you know, a camel loping across the desert and pull up to the tent with a pickup that was in front of the tent. It was such a, you know, the now and still then, the Bedouins still, you know, ride camels, but it was absolutely fabulous, fabulous time.
Oh, nice.
About that.
I think I'd suggest Rome, that we had a really good time there for 10 days, and I could have stayed for another month. That was pizza on every corner and gelato stores, so the food, of course, is good. And then not temples, but the cathedrals, you know, there's the big ones and the architecture and the infrastructure. But then we would be on some random side street and there'd be a church there with like amazing artwork still, just like around every corner. It's really overwhelming of the Renaissance period of what they built there. And,
yeah.
Fun. That was a fun trip. I'd go back again and for sure.
Yeah. How about you, Dorothy?
I think my favorite place is Italy. And the story to go with this, it was our honeymoon. And we got off the plane in Rome and drove 3 hours due east to Carmen's father's birthplace. And we found his birthplace. The very home his dad was born and raised and baptized in the mid-1800s. And there it was, his dad's birthplace.
Where was it?
It was in a town called Picentro, farming community, almost on the Adriatic. And all these, I love this story, so all these women are out there and they're just sweeping the streets, right? Because that's what Italian women do. We got there in time for it was siesta time, so there was nobody around on the streets. And then slowly, one by one, the people would come out because they came back out. We're sitting in the cafe having a cappuccino, and slowly all these men are lining the street on the piazza. And I looked at them and I went, sweetheart, they all look like you. Because
they
it
all
was his
relatives?
dad. Well, yeah, I mean, they were all of the same family in Picentro. So yes, that's my favorite place ever.
Oh, how wonderful. How about you, Ray?
One of the most beautiful places I've been at was when I went one time when I was working in China. I went on vacation to one of their sacred mountains.
Oh, yeah.
And I was staying at this little hotel, but it was more than just a hotel. I mean, it was, well, but from my window, I could see this one lake in the distance, and I could see all the clouds below.
Wow.
And, you know, just hearing like gongs in the distance and smelling some incense, because there were a lot of temples up there of Taoists. So it was a striking experience, and it was beautiful, very nice.
Wow. How about you, Julie?
Well, I was raised in Colorado, and I thought that was beautiful. You know, we'd go to Girl Scout camp in Idaho Springs, and you know, we'd go fishing all the time in the mountains, and I thought that was beautiful. I remember Italy. I went one time, and I was just so upset because they lost my clothes.
Oh, no.
Or I'd have probably felt better had they lost my husband. I was so upset. You know.
Clothes is another thing.
Yeah, that's all you have on is a sweatsuit. You know, that was really tough on
Day in
me.
and day out.
And they gave me a T-shirt and socks. That's all they gave me. And then when I went shopping, of course, I couldn't afford what I wanted. So that was a bad trip.
Kink on there.
Yeah.
Did the T-shirt say "I love Italy"?
No. No. That's funny. Yeah.
Okay. We'll take a quick. Are we ready? What's this? What is your favorite road trip? We've been traveling all the time here now, but this is a road trip.
I know my answer.
Go ahead.
When the kids, I had 3 kids, that still do, I guess. But when they were 9, 10, and 11, we got a Winnebago motorhome and took off from Sacramento. I got a Rand McNally book and put a dot on all the major national tourist sites, and then put a dot on family sites like Kentucky, New York, Florida, San Diego, and then connected them. And we went 10,000 miles in the month of July in 1998. Went down to Mexico, went up to Canada by the Niagara Falls. It was really fun. But the Winnebago with 3 kids, as far as eating, sleeping, and bathroom facilities, that was the only way we could have done it. But that was a lot of fun. That was a family.
That's got to be a memory they'll never forget.
Yeah. We had a lot of good memories there.
I wish you'd have been my dad. How about you, Dorothy?
I think I mentioned earlier when my folks wanted to move to California, our first vacation was when I was 10, and it was a road trip. But imagine being 10 years old and you've grown up in Chicago and now you're headed west. And suddenly you see the Rockies for the first time, and you're like, what is that? And then from that point, I mean, the Grand Canyon and Independence Pass and all those places, and you're just 10. And I spent my whole life just looking at the flatlands of Chicago. So I think that was my most memorable road trip. And then we repeated it every other year for the next 2 years as well. So it was great.
How about Ray?
I don't necessarily have a favorite one, but I have a go-to one.
Okay.
And that is to drive from here up to the Bay Area. And but go up the one as much as I can. And that's always a lot of fun.
Coming out of Big Sur in there.
Santa Barbara and Solvang. And the Central Coast is really nice. A lot of wineries.
Pancakes.
You have to leave early to make it there to have pancakes.
Of course.
Then you can like just relax around there and then go up to Morro Bay and spend the evening there and go out and check out again, you know.
Do you know the place in Santa Barbara? It's a breakfast shop, but they serve like skillets of eggs 24 hours. You can order any time. It's like Sonny's, or it starts with an S, and it's something like Sonny's or something, but it's pretty well known. Right on the beachfront, on the it would be the west end of town.
Yeah.
But is that ringing a bell at all? Or I mean, they have a line of people are waiting to get in there all the time.
Yeah, it is. I'm familiar with that one. And then the other breakfast place that's fun is Janine's at the top of State Street, where there was actually a movie made that kind of played off of her story, where she was divorced with this guy that was an attorney, and because he left her for a younger woman, and then he ends up not liking the younger woman and wanted to get back with her, but she had started her whole life in opening this bakery / restaurant and or breakfast place. You know? And so it's a great breakfast place there. But,
That's a good story. I wouldn't have taken him back either. It's a good
well, she did for a little bit, and then decided
keep the bakery.
Keep the bakery. Let him go.
Did you say your trip is all the way to San Francisco, or what was your?
Well, actually, up to San Francisco. Sometimes all the way up to Sonoma.
Yep.
But that's going the route until I can get onto the one, and then take the one as far up as I can. Because sometimes it's closed.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
This state's so huge.
Yes.
Or two.
How about you, Joy?
Well, we used to just go back and forth from Denver to California and Glendale because my mom's family lived there. Some of her family lived there. But my favorite thing was when I lived in a neighborhood. I was the 5th person to move to Laguna Niguel. I paid $17,500 for the house.
Wow.
And my neighborhood would get together. Just for over $1 million. I don't think they've done anything.
Wow.
But neighbors used to get together, and we had a Mexican family with 4 kids that I liked, and my family with 2 kids that I tolerated and liked. And so the fishing trips and things like that with the neighbors, I just loved them. California to Denver was a normal thing that we just did. It was almost a chore, except we used to stop and pick cherries. And that was fun, things like that. But that's just,
Well, I've been to all 50 states,
Wow.
and I've driven in 49 of them. Only one I didn't drive in was Alaska because we were on a tour.
Yeah.
And I have different places that I enjoy on a road trip that I've been on. And I bet every state has a beautiful highway. But the one that I think even challenges the road to Hana in Hawaii is there's a Highway 58 in Virginia that's just absolutely gorgeous. And I want to take Pam because she hasn't been there.
Oh.
But last September I did an interesting road trip. A friend of mine said that he wanted to ride his motorcycle from Canada to Mexico in the dirt. And he wanted to know if I would go, and I was his roadie. I drove my truck. So I was on the little 2-lane roads that paralleled this dirt road, because you can ride anywhere in the United States. There's another trail that goes from Oregon to South Carolina in the dirt where you never get on the asphalt. So he did this trip, and we'd meet up at night, and he'd tell me about what he saw. And I told him about what I saw, because the little back roads, the little 2-lane roads, you don't see anybody. I mean, it's miles and miles between different cities. But one place in Idaho, I turned the corner, and have you ever been to Switzerland where all those pictures are always taken to that valley with the waterfall and everything's green, the sheep and the cows are out in the field? I turned this corner on this highway, and it looked just like Switzerland in Idaho.
Cool.
So I don't have a favorite, but they're all beautiful in one way or another where I've been all over the U.S.
Well, road trips with my ex was from here to Minnesota every year because he wanted to go fishing in his dad's cabin. So we would get, I didn't drive, we had, 5-year-old. We'd get in the car, and he would work all day. We'd get in the car because he just wanted to go. And so he'd drive 32 hours straight. I mean, it was ridiculous.
How do you
And of course, I would pack a lunch, and of course, to stay, because I sleep in the car, and he would say, can't you just stay awake longer? So then I'd eat the sandwiches. And he'd say, well, don't eat all the sandwiches. But I had to stay awake, But literally, if there wasn't a gas station on the right-hand side of the road, he wouldn't stop to go to the bathroom.
Holy cow.
And if there, the same thing with driving, for food. If there wasn't, we're not going to lose that. That guy's going to get in front of me if we pull over here now. Oh my God, what a joy that was.
Yeah.
well, how long did that beautiful relationship last?
20 years.
20, yeah.
But we only did that trip 5 years in a row, which was way more than, but it was just nasty.
Yeah.
That was a road trip. I mean, even when we drove up, one time we drove up to Reno to visit friends. So I said, I want to drive, I want to see. So we went up the one. And so I, had to look over so I could see Cy, because he was busy driving and he doesn't stop for anything. But again, I said, I want to go through and see Big Sur before they mow it all down and put up condos. And as we came through Big Sur, and it was like, sunset or something, and we came out of and there was Carmel with the sun, and I went, oh, no wonder everybody comes here for honeymoons. I mean, it was breathtaking.
Yeah.
But of course, if I hadn't caught it 1 minute, we would have turned and then gone. No, that was my experience with road trips. Not a pleasant time. That was me, now it's you.
All right. Try the lined paper. The long question here. Would you rather be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond? I'd go with small fish in a big pond. Get to move around more. But also, yeah, I've never. It's nice riding below the radar with things. A lot of people, fame and fortune and stuff, that they play it up as the greatest thing ever. But I think a lot of people are actually more miserable there than people that just, get through the day and call it good.
They watch every move you make, and if you flub, they're ready to just tear it apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you guys? Would you be the little fish or the big fish? Big fish in a small pond,
That's
little
kind
fish?
of a philosophy
Little fish.
question.
Little
Yeah,
fish.
Little-
kind of
little
is.
fish.
Same
I'm,
here.
I'm
Yeah.
Comfortable being a big fish.
Good.
I am too,
Good.
I am too.
All right. I
My
like
my
that.
grandson asked me if I was a movie star because I'm so well known here. And I said, just till I hit the gate, honey.
Oh, that's
Then I'm
great.
no longer a movie star.
Okay, go ahead and grab another one, dear.
Stick with the lined paper, whoever it is.
These philosophical questions.
Question number 3. Oh, somebody did more than 2.
Okay.
What is your favorite place to vacation?
Oh, we've already done that.
We've already done that.
We have to do another
Pass.
one.
Goodbye.
Sorry. Everybody had the same
Hope your
thought.
feelings aren't hurt.
No, no,
Yeah.
we had the same, we're on the same page.
If you were asked to teach a class to 5th graders, what would it be about?
You know what I teach? Comedy.
Comedy.
Mhm. And they're just all natural clowns at that age anyway, so be a piece of cake.
How about you, Ray?
Dancing.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Dancing.
Yeah.
Steve?
I think we should teach them how to count for their money and how to use
Yeah.
a checkbook.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not being
Be
done.
fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
That plastic doesn't work. You don't just keep sticking it in the machine, money comes out. Be
Yeah.
responsible for your own assets.
My son, you know, 1,000 years ago, when he would say, Mom, why can't we buy that? And I said, because we don't have the money, so we'll write a check.
Yeah.
Because that concept, but that was 1,000 years ago, and I think that concept is not being taught in schools at all.
No.
So, but I think that it would be back to values. And that would be one of them is, you know, financial, but also ethics and morals.
Oh, yeah.
Something, I mean, you have to start at a very young age anymore. They won't even understand what you're talking about. But, and, you know, and I think we were talking the last time too, is civics isn't taught, financial things. One of the gals that was the last group said that her daughter was in college and said, Mom, you know, she had called her and she said, Mom, I got a bunch of my girlfriends here from my class, and will you teach us again, tell us again how to use the checkbook?
Oh.
They're in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, again, that is not even being taught in
No.
school. So, yeah, and I think we need to start much younger. And I always say
Yeah.
5th grade because they're not cutting and pasting, and I can't do cut and paste. So I always try to start there where they have some type of logic and reasoning.
I know you all thought I would say DNA, but
No. You have other
but my
interests.
first thought was money. That's definitely,
Yeah.
people get, you know, the risk factor being in debt. It's, you could argue modern day slavery. They got so many scams going. But my dad used to always say, listen, every time you get $1, there's 100 people trying to figure out how to take it off you.
Oh.
And it's just like, he dropped out of school in like 8th grade and worked as a butcher, but but that practicality, you know, to have, you know, money can give you so much freedom, but then, you know, so anyway, that's, yeah, something that they've it wasn't accidental. I think they consciously took teaching money out of schools. And my kids, when they were in high school in the 2000s, I guess, they were mailing them credit cards. Congratulations, you qualified. Like, how can a kid in 10th grade qualify?
Yeah.
It's like nuts, but they want to trap them into a life of debt.
Right. Oh, horrible. How about you, Dorothy?
You know, I agree with everybody on the financial part. There seems to be a gap because there's a gap between the lemonade stand and then whatever happens at high school or, you know, when you start to go in your freshman year. Because nothing happens in terms of understanding, you know, I guess we could start root cause, which is math.
Yeah.
You know, and then we can progress to financial concepts of doing it. Because, I mean, there are a lot of gaps today. And I think the other difference is also whether you're in a private school or a public school. Because I think the private schools have more flexibility to talk about some of the untouchables that maybe you can't in public today. But, I mean, those are lifelong lessons that need to start young.
Oh, yes, for sure. How about you, Ray?
Oh, I had said Dan.
Oh,
dance,
that's
dance, we're back to
started.
dance.
Okay, then
Yeah,
you get to
that-
start the.
Good.
You got the
You
next
do
hat.
that.
Well, I want to know, are you a professional dancer? Because you certainly look like one.
He dances
Oh,
like
he
one
is.
too. He
Yeah.
is.
No, but I
He does.
compete a lot.
Yeah,
And,
you're a
does.
wonderful
And he
dancer.
does
Thank
well.
Yeah,
Beautifully.
thanks. We may have, no, maybe yes, maybe no. What is your favorite place to visit India, or you visited
we
in
covered
the
that.
US?
Yeah, do that
We've
one.
That's,
covered
we've
that.
done that one.
Been
That one,
there.
We're all on the same wavelength as far as visiting and
Yeah.
touring and.
Starting to your right, you're having a dinner party. You can invite any 3 people, living, past, or mythical, and not a relative. Who would you invite and why?
That's a good question.
That's my question. Shall we?
Yeah.
Let somebody else do it?
Go ahead.
I'll do my 3. My 3 would be, my criteria would be people that have a vision. So I would invite John F. Kennedy, Walt Disney, and Ross Cortese. And the reason, because all 3 of them had a vision for something and they accomplished it. Number 1, John F. Kennedy said we'd go to the moon. We did, and we came back. Walt Disney, like I said earlier, but again, because of my time there, I would love to talk to him socially and say, how'd you ever figure this out? How did you ever go to an orange grove in Anaheim and figure out this is where we need to build a park? Because that was 1955. So prior to that, in the 1950s, he already had the vision to go from his first animation of Steamboat Willie, okay, his animation, to designing Disneyland, which opened in 1955. And then he did it again, and he went to Florida and bought a lot of swamp, and decided, yep, this is another good place for a theme park.
Did you say you read a book about his life where he did that incognito? They
Yeah.
made like fictitious companies and bought
Had to.
pieces so that
Right.
they didn't, nobody got wind that it was going
That
to
it
be
was doing
another
it.
Disney
Wow.
park.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
And then my 3rd one that I would love to have known would be Ross Cortese, our founder, to realize that he had a vision in 1960 to build the first 55-plus active community in the United States. And how did you do that? Where did you have that vision? And it wasn't just, I'll go build something. I mean, he had a business plan. And I share with our guests, most people don't know, after he built Leisure World in Seal Beach, he worked with the USC School of Gerontology and went to them, and they developed our business plan, not only inside the gate, but outside the gate as well, which included the hospitals and the churches and the grocery stores. And that's what he implemented for 20 years of building. So I would love to have a night with these 3 men that are true visionaries, and just and ask them, how did you do that? Where did you come up with that? Because it would seem to me be inspirational, even in some of my smaller challenges in life. You know, whether I'm going to the moon or I'm going, to Walt Disney World. That would just be a delightful night for me.
How about you, Joe?
I'll go a different direction. If it's a dinner party and we're going to have some fun, I'm inviting the 3 Stooges.
That's funny.
Oh, that'll be good. Oh, my. Oh, you will have a good dinner party.
Yes.
That was such a funny show, man. I remember like rolling on the floor watching those guys.
Oh, their antics were just beyond.
Physical comedy is something special. Although, a lot of that was sound effects, like when they would hit each
Yeah.
other with shovels and things.
Yeah.
But that was really a nice work of art in a way. But
I was flipping through the channels and that was on the other day and I couldn't pass it. I had to stop. It's still classic.
I wonder if younger people would even understand.
Too violent.
They wouldn't.
Too violent.
Well, they were hitting each other on the head.
Oh.
Right.
You
Twisting
gotta
his
like
ear.
slapstick, I think, in order for
Yeah,
them
that's
to
right.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think I would, I guess Michelangelo would be one, and probably as much as I'm not necessarily a big fan, but Da Vinci, because of his scientific, and because I don't really know a lot about that, but I had a friend once that, he's a doctor of computer science, and he builds software. So it's like, you know, he's way beyond whatever, but he was telling me one time about quantum physics and about, you know, that chair isn't really there and so on, and he started telling me about that and about the energy fields around things and everything. And I was so mesmerized, but I said, Rolf, you have to stop because my brain is like thumping because I couldn't take anything more in. But that's the kind of thing that I would love to sit at a table and ask a question and pull and ask a question. With Michelangelo, I read about his love of sculpting and so on, that he loved marble and how he came to build. They said, how do you know what to, when you get a big piece of marble, how do you know what to you know, make out of it? And he said, well, I just free what's inside. You know, that kind of vision, and then, well, how do you know when to, and he said, well, I stop and I hit the skin, of course. I mean, it was just to him so logical, but that kind of, you know, artistic, you know, and of course, Da Vinci was even more and more beyond that, but those two for sure would be, I guess I would just be sitting there, eating very little, and just listening and asking questions. How about you?
Elon Musk, Dave Chappelle, and David Gilmour.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, that's great.
Remind me, David Gilmour.
He's the lead guitar player for
Pink Floyd. Oh, yeah.
What a combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a
Some
good dinner
interesting
party.
conversation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's,
How about you, dear?
Well, I'm thinking more about after dinner, of course, with Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and Elizabeth
the
Taylor.
Rat
Good one.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
That's good.
Definitely the Rat Pack would be
Right.
pruning,
They knew how to enjoy a meal.
for sure. How about you, Ray?
You kind of took mine. But going in a different direction, it would be interesting to have Niccolo Machiavelli
Oh, yes, yes.
and juxtapose them to somebody that would have, you know, it's political theory versus political philosophy, to have Plato.
Oh,
Those two. And then at the third one, have someone that I've admired for a while, and that's Theodore Roosevelt. And just see the practicality of someone like a Theodore Roosevelt, the machinations of someone like Machiavelli, and then hear it balanced against political philosophy. I think it'd be very interesting.
just the idea of these brilliant minds and doing what we're doing right here, you know, throwing out a question at dinner and having them coming from such different places of life as to where those brilliant minds would take us, I think that would be just unbelievably interesting. Yeah, we wouldn't even care what we're eating.
Right.
You know, it's on the subject a little bit is people back then, we don't really know, we know what's written about them or what's been said about them, and you know how often stories change and things now too, but modern people today, with our digital footprint of what you bought, where you were, when your cell phone was picked up, how much it moved, all that data is stored. If you want to know somebody today, they, you know, and the intel agencies, they can press a button and it retrieves all kinds of different data points and fuse it together, and you almost have your whole life lived and recorded to a very great detail that you can really know that person. In fact, that guy, Harari, says that the internet is going to know people way better than you know yourself. These things can monitor your blood pressure and your heart rate, and when you see something, how you react to it, and the data that's being collected right now. And I'm generally libertarian too, but you put this in the hands of unsupervised players, and it's it can also be a dangerous thing. But it's really a fascinating time.
Okay, is it Joey or is it you? I don't know which one is.
Oh.
You're right.
Okay. At this time of your life, what gives you life meaning and purpose? Oh, that's a tricky one. You go ahead and answer first.
What gives my life
At this
meaning
time
and
of your
purpose?
life, what
Well,
gives your life memory and purpose?
Meaning and purpose.
Meaning and purpose. Is this yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I believe that it has changed so much over the years. What was important and gave my life meaning before is totally not what it is now. And I feel that less is more. You don't need big things to make you feel satisfied, to make you feel peaceful. There's one thing that I must have in my life, and that's passion. Not sexual passion, but passion for doing something, teaching something, believing something. That to me is essential, is to have a passion for life and a passion for whatever it is you're doing. So that is important to me. But I found that as time has gone by, that I need to be around people less than ever. And that has been happening over the years. People don't believe when I tell them that I'm antisocial, that I'm an introvert. Because before I used to be an extrovert because I drew my strength by being around a lot of people. Now they drain me. So that's why I pull away, and I only can handle being around certain people because I'm used up. So I watch how I spend my time with how many people so that I'm not being drained, but that I'm actually, and that's why I talk about having a dinner party and just sitting and talking to people about something that I find so totally interesting. That to me is, again, part of what I enjoy most. It gives my life meaning and purpose.
I think everyone in this room is an asset to Laguna Woods.
Well, I hope so.
I really think so. And
We all bring something
yes,
different.
I think it's great. And I meet more people that have meaning here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in other words, not to put words in your mouth, but contributing to the society here, like what
Right.
you're doing with the comedy club and giving people a couple hours of laughter
Right.
every month. It's all,
Like what Dorothy
Good
does,
energy.
and CJ does. And
yeah.
we all do. I think it's wonderful.
I think for all of us too, somewhat as the conduit. You know, my dad's still with us. That like, not that I'm using him as my forward lookout, but I'm going to be in his shoes soon too. But so like spending time with him and seeing how he sees the world is really fun for me. But then passing that on to the next generation of maybe avoid this pitfall, or I tried that and it came out like this. But just having that connectivity intergenerational is kind of.
You're a good Italian boy.
Yeah, that intergenerational, I think, is
Take care
so
of the family.
vitally important.
Yeah.
That we learn something from our elders and we pass it on.
Yeah.
So that we have respect for them, but also learn from them because they have so much to teach us.
And whether it's biological family or your neighborhood, you could call your family too. But I think caring about people around you and taking care of them rather than, you know, how big's the bank account or how big's your house or these materialistic things that some people get consumed with that, you know, and they're trying to program us. You watch TV and they tell you, oh, you have to have this, go get that. And it's like nothing's there.
That's one of the things that kind of was surprising to me when I would ask people about being on the show. That I said, you have a very interesting life. And they were just shocked that I would find them that interesting. Because they don't see it in themselves. And that anyone else would be interested in who they are. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because we have so many people here in the village that are absolutely so interesting. And yet they're so humble, they just don't see that at all. And I think we have got lots and lots of people here that really, again, share that with the next generation because they have a lot to teach us.
I was on your show and you surprised me because I ended up spending the whole night pulling out family photographs. And you didn't ask about my comedy more than you asked about me and my lifestyle and all that. Your shows are great.
I don't care about your comedy, Joe. I know you do that well. I just wanted to find out how you got there.
You did a great job. I told you. I learned much more about me than you did.
That's the part that I find with most of them. Even the first gal that I did when I was interviewing her, and she would maybe forget something, and I'd say, well, don't forget to tell them about when you were sleeping in a barn and, you know, whatever. And she goes, you know more about my life than I do. But she had told me her story, and I didn't want her to miss that because it's so part of how she became who she is. That they've lived it, so they think it's nothing special.
Well, you interviewed my producer who won an Emmy Award.
Mm-hmm. Noreen.
What a good job you did on her.
And she was so nervous, but
Yeah.
she was, when we got done,
It's a
she
great
said,
show.
that was so easy and casual. She was expecting it not to be,
Yeah.
but she enjoyed it a great deal.
Well, you're
She's a
good
sweetheart.
at what you do.
Yeah.
How did she win an Emmy? What did
She was the vice president of Columbia Television.
Oh, wow.
She was a
Yeah,
daytime.
in the daytime. She won an Emmy for daytime television.
Uh-huh.
I'm lucky enough to have her.
Yeah.
She's in the village here?
Oh, yeah.
She does our TV show. She does the audience on all my YouTubes.
Yeah.
She's wonderful.
But
Noreen.
is it Fred Zimmerman? Is that the big producer guy? Anyway, I think it's Fred something. Anyway, she worked with him.
Uh-huh.
And she told him that she said, you've got to keep, oh, what's the show I can't stand? Wheel of Fortune. She said, you must keep that, Fred, and he didn't want to keep it.
Oh.
And so she said, I just kept at him, and you know, this tiny little woman, I mean, she's about this big, and she wielded some power, you know, because she just kept on, and it's still running today, you know. So she stuck to her guns, but she is another very interesting story.
If you came to Comedy Club, Joe, you would know her.
I'm going to come next week. I'm going to blow off my dad.
I'm coming to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where are we at?
Any,
We have one more left or no?
4 left.
Okay, grab one because we only have time for like one more, right?
last
Brian?
question?
This is the last question.
Do you think there is a God? And if so, how do you describe them?
Oh, man, we should save that for next time.
Oh, that's hard to go off on that one.
Yeah.
There's not enough memory.
Put that one back in there.
Put it back in.
Back in.
Put that one in there, grab another one. Yeah, we'll save it for
We
next
need an
time.
hour for that one.
Yes,
Yeah,
we would.
That's a whole show.
Name one thing that is missing in your life.
Ooh. Well, I could. But it would be telling.
One thing.
I got it. Didn't you get it?
But you don't know what it is, and I wouldn't say it, but it is.
I know what it is.
No, you don't.
I'll bet I do. Go ahead. You tell him.
Lips. I miss
I didn't see
lips.
that.
There's lips.
I love kissing,
Oh.
and I miss lips.
That's as far as you want to go, that's fine.
You got that right, sweet face.
Okay.
That's all farther I'm going on this
True.
show.
And actually, we're all missing that. It's like, remember the other TV show, Family Feud? Richard Dawson
Yeah.
used to kiss every
every
woman
woman.
on the
That's right.
lips. Like that was all
Oh,
just
my
normal
stars.
in the back in the day.
Yeah.
Now it's like
That's
people got
nice.
gloves on and masks and running away from each other.
Probably
It's
a
a
good
shame how
breath.
much we've lost.
Yeah. Well, we don't even hug anymore,
Yeah,
let alone kiss.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, we're thrilled when we don't have on the mask.
How about we all hug each other to wrap up the show?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Dorothy, thank you for coming. Can I give you a hug?
Absolutely.
We're gonna
Thank
do
you.
this.
This is great. We are going to do this.
Okay.
Making the trips here. He's making the
Even the
trips.
fellas, you got to.
Yes, the fellas count.
Okay.
Thanks,
I
brother.
better stand up.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
We're doing the whole round here. Thank you, guys. A double hug here.
There we go.
We need a hugging
Double
club.
hug. That's
All right,
it.
okay, brother.
We were ready to do this.
Oh, yes.
You didn't do me.
I didn't do you, Joey. Either, Joey.
That's fun.
I think you don't.
Thank you.
All right.
Closing.
Are we ready to close?
You have a close?
All right, we're gonna keep those because those are new, and we'll get that. I'll take those and
There we go.
open them. Okay.
Are you closed?
Not yet. Are we ready? I want to thank all of you once again. Thank you for the hugs especially. It's been a long, dry spell. Next time we'll work on lips. But for right now, hugs were good. So, but thank you all so much for coming. Hope you had a good time. Hope you got to know each other a little bit better.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, great
So-
group.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice.
Thanks again.
Thanks.